All right, welcome everybody to a special edition of the Kingdom Politics Podcast with Pastor Will and Dr. Michael Huffman. This will come out, this will post when I'm on vacation. So we did not leave anybody hanging and we wanted to get an episode out. And today we're going to talk about a hot topic, especially because of what happened in California, early voting. And well, it was a hot topic here in Virginia too, because the Virginia Supreme Court ruled what early voting is versus what the actual voting day is. Now, California has crazy laws. They have like a month to count votes,
Mm-hmm.
and they have absentees. But in California, I posted about this the other day when it happened. Nittany Aronmi, that's her name. Sorry, I spaced on her name for a second. She was in third place and conceded the election. And 3 days later, she beat Spencer Pratt in the LA mayor primary to have the runoff election with Karen Bass in the fall time. Maybe you've seen it, sir, but I have never seen someone concede an election and 3 days later come in second place.
No, never. In my years of following politics, I have never in my life seen that. No. Now I've seen people find 81 million votes before. I mean, Joe Biden got more votes in his in 2020 than Barack Obama got. So I mean, that alone ought to give you some concern for pause here.
Yeah, the voting early. So full disclosure, I vote early. It's easier for me. I usually wait till the very last day of early voting and then I go because then they shut it down for like 3 days, I think, before the actual election day. I would happily and without complaints give up and just vote on election day. Yeah, I literally just do it because we're allowed to and it's easier on my schedule. Happily would give it up. So in Virginia, we have, correct me if I'm wrong, 45 days to early vote.
Correct.
A lot can happen
And
in 45 days.
That's in all elections, not just the general. You also have 45 days in primaries in Virginia.
Yeah. I mean, candidates are still out there, especially for the primaries. Candidates are still out there getting information out, doing questions and answers, which I know we'll talk about the Republican one here in a little bit. Why do we have 45 days? That's a long time.
Well, it was something that the Democrats brought in. They wanted an opportunity to, Will, if you want to be cynical, they wanted an opportunity to get more of their people out to vote. And so they demanded 45 days of voting.
Yeah, so it begins 45 days before election, and then it ends on the Saturday before election. So they're closed that Saturday, Sunday, Monday, and then it opens back up on Tuesday.
And by the way, just not too ironically, this was changed in 2020 under Ralph Northam as the governor, and it was created by a statute.
It's one of the
we had in Virginia what was called an excused required absentee voting, but they replaced that with what they call a no excuse early voting for 45 days.
So I'm looking up which ones have longer ones. We have one of the longest voting windows in the country. Wisconsin has 47 days, South Dakota has 46 days, Pennsylvania has 50, Alabama has 55. So we're seventh longest. Yeah, we're seventh longest in the entire country.
Wow. Yeah.
That's interesting.
It's, the founding fathers knew nothing about early voting. There's nothing in the Constitution about whether national or Commonwealth state about early voting. It's something that has been generated by the Progressive Party in Virginia.
Yeah, and it goes to a larger issue with voting where we're making it incredibly complicated. It should be a pretty easy, not easy. I understand people have to count all those votes, but we're making it more complicated than it needs to be. And it's making the waters really muddy on what is a true election and what is not. And it's leading to, on one side, it's leading to conspiracy theories um, that may bear out being true. And then on the other side, it's leading to fraud and it's leading to, well, as a in Virginia, the Supreme Court said you guys couldn't do the redistricting thing precisely because early voting had already started. So it's leading to
Correct.
some really misleading things on either side of it. Uh,
Yeah.
I don't know why we make
Yeah.
these voting so difficult in terms of this country at this point will be a country for 250 years. And now it seems like our voting is more muddied and complicated than ever before.
Yeah, I mean, I remember when I was a kid, my first election that I remember watching and trying really keeping up with. I'm not quite sure why, but the first election I remember was Reagan when he was seeking reelection in '84, and he was running against Walter Mondale, and that was the first election that I can remember following because even as a young person, I was a Reagan fan. Of course, in that election, he won every state in the United States except Walter Mondale's home state. That was the only state Mondale, and what was he from, Minnesota or someplace like that? That was the only state that Mondale won. And that, I mean, when you,
Yeah.
and Reagan got California, he got Hawaii, he got all those places. And, but you had the election results that night. I mean, I'm not talking 1, 2 o'clock in the morning. You had them before the evening news came on, and that was back when everything was done paper ballot. And so it seems like that we have more difficulty counting computerized electronic votes than we do the old paper ballot. Something's wrong with the system. The system is breaking, and we give people excuses. We give them reasons. For example, when we used to have the excuse absentee voting, basically what that was is that um, you had a list of reasons that you had to fill out of why you could not make it to the poll on election day. Work conflict, travel, disability, illness, living out of the country, military service, student status, religious obligations, whatever. And so in 2020, they decided to repeal that. And instead of having people fill out a form and having to be approved for their reasons they gave for missing election day, they said, well, we'll just give you 45 days to vote. Well, and as you said, that's led to constitutional questions. That's led to fraud questions, conspiracy theories. And we just need to go back to election day voting. I mean, I'm like you, Will. I don't early vote only because, not because I have a moral objection to it, but I don't early vote just because it never works out that I can get my wife and I both with our schedules can get to the poll together. And we've, call us sentimental, but we've always voted together. So we vote together. We walk in together.
That's
We walk
nice.
out together. And so I would probably find my suitcase on the front porch if I voted without her. So I just don't. It's not a hill I'm willing to die on. So and our schedules. And I tell you what, the truth is, when we voted on the redistricting together, I was racing up 64 or 95 to get home in time to get to the poll then, so that we could, because that's how tight my schedule is. But again, I have no moral objection to early voting, uh, which is not why I don't do it. But I do think I'm like you. It would not hurt my feelings if it went away, and I think it should go.
Yeah, I think so too. So here's what they did in 2020 in Virginia, and then I'm going to tell you what they did in California. Because I think we need to look at where the biggest problems are and where we are headed as a Commonwealth. So in 2020, like you said, they eliminated the excuse requirement. So you don't need a reason to absentee vote anymore. You can just do it. They created a permanent list, which means you don't ever have to go to the polls to actually vote. You can just always do it by mail. Um, and then, of course, they expanded the opportunities to vote, which ended up being 45 days. Um, Now, in California, they have mail-in ballots, like we talked about already. It can arrive 7 days after the election's
Hmm.
over. Um, Now, they have 30 days after an election to count the ballots. They have what's called a curing time before they certify the election. So it can take a month, legally take a month to certify an election in California. And we've seen the results coming out of there. If you look at like Fairfax County, why is Fairfax County always behind on counting their election results? I don't have an answer to the question, but if you look at the amount of money that that county has, it really shouldn't take that long. Other counties have a more spread out geographical problem. Fairfax doesn't have that. It's a big county, right? But logistically, it's all interconnected with tons of roads and all these other things. The logistics of the geography isn't that bad, but some counties in Virginia, like Bedford County is a huge county. They get their counts in. Geographically, that county's bigger than Fairfax.
Yeah. Albemarle County, they're liberal. That's where I was raised. They're much bigger than Fairfax square mileage is concerned, as far as the size of the county, and they get their counts in. Then they get the counts in wrong because they always go for the Democrat, but they get their counts in. So it's almost like they're waiting to see what numbers they need before they start counting, isn't it?
Well, yeah, that's what it appears to be, right? Why is Fairfax, when the redistricting thing happened, Fairfax didn't call it in till well late. Um, and it is odd. It makes it appear odd because those counts were very close.
Hmm.
Um, what did
And they
that
needed
pass?
35,000, and every one of them were yes.
Yeah. I think that was like would they win by 1.5%? I think
Yeah,
one
something like that.
one that
It was 88,000 votes, but it was like 1.5, 2%. Yeah.
yeah, and so it just appears, perception's reality, as the old saying goes,
Hmm. Yeah.
and you're fueling. Even let's just assume it's above board. You're at a minimum fueling things, if not flat out fraud on the
Yeah.
worst case scenario.
Well,
And
you
so
need
that
total transparency is what you need. And, whether it's ministry, with church life, home life, your job, especially, and particularly government, you need total transparency. And if you don't have transparency from the election, from the root point of the election process, if you don't have transparency there, then it's questionable all the way up.
yeah, that's the big thing is the transparency thing. Like when they're trying to talk about the SAVE Act, like why is it a big deal to have ID to vote? I show my ID every time I go vote.
Yeah, I do too.
Um,
I mean, I have to show I'm trying to think. At one time, I had to show my ID and my voter registration card. Now I think I have to show one or the other.
yeah.
Um, but yeah, you got to show some form of ID. And are we really going to tell people in Virginia that they're too dumb to go get an ID?
No, it's
That's what the Democrats are saying.
yeah, but you need an ID for so much.
Well, yeah,
Like you,
yeah,
um, you have to so many things you have to have an ID. I have a gym membership. I had to show them my ID to get a gym membership. Why is it the most important thing we do in this country is vote? Why is it all of a sudden now it's too difficult to get an ID. Um,
Well, you gotta have
I
an ID to buy alcohol, you gotta have an ID to buy
yeah,
cigarettes, but you don't have to have an ID to vote. Just but you gotta have an ID to get into the Democratic National Convention,
but yeah,
but not to vote, but not to
no,
vote.
no, you can't get an ID then. That's too difficult. Um, yeah, like even like innocent things, like I'm the third, my dad is a junior, my grandfather's in heaven now, so he's no longer, with us to vote, but my dad is the junior and I'm the third. Sometimes hasn't happened in a while, but sometimes I get his mail. So, I mean, these things happen. Like we have the same name, uh, other than the three and the two on our official IDs. Though otherwise, it's the same name. So some of it is like innocent things that you need ID to clear things up. Now my dad votes the same way I do, so it's kind of neither here nor
Safe
there.
there.
Yeah, in this example, but um, it's just it's muddied the waters too much. They should just go back and just be transparent and just we all go vote on voting on election day. An ID, it's not that difficult to do these things to secure our elections because there's a lot of out of state money coming into Virginia. Uh, and there's a lot of deception with the ballot measures. Um, the redistricting one was incredibly deceptive. The abortion one, which you and I have read, is deceptive. And I don't know what the restoration one will say yet, but I'm sure it's going to be deceptive. Um, and then with the early voting, though, you have these candidates that are running as moderates, and we've seen how that has gone in Virginia. I don't but that goes to the whole process, though. The whole process has become, so we can transition over to the, uh, Republican thing you went to last night. The whole process has become kind of unfair. So, in terms for the voters, how many debates did we have for the governorship of Virginia? 1. And Governor Spanberger barely even answered questions.
Yeah,
And
yeah.
she barely answers questions now. What is she gonna do for the next 3 years?
And the
Barely
lieutenant
answer questions?
and the lieutenant governor refused to debate.
Yeah, how is that even a thing?
You can run for public office, you should have to automatically open yourself up to open public debate because people have the right to know where you stand on issues. And if
Yeah.
you refuse a public debate, it should disqualify you from running for office. But unfortunately, our Constitution doesn't say that.
Yeah. Yeah, it's if especially if you're running for the governor, lieutenant governor, attorney general, like these are incredibly important positions, and the people have a right to ask questions, and the people have a right to hear you explain your platform, and to not even have a debate is, especially in today's world, is unacceptable. You can use YouTube and stream it. Um, it costs nothing. It's there. There's really no excuse anymore to not have everything out in the open.
Exactly.
You and I, our beliefs are wide open.
No secrets.
It's I remember talking to a pastor one time, and it was about all the progressive stuff, and I was like, "Well, why don't they all my stuff is out there, it's free."
Mhm. Yeah. Yeah.
It's
I
no
mean,
secret.
I used to charge people for my sermons, but nobody was buying them, so I had to give them away for free.
People pay me to go away, go on vacation for 2 weeks. We need a break.
That's right. Hallelujah.
Um, yeah, there's no excuse not to be able to ask questions,
No.
and I understand, at a debate, maybe we're not gonna have 5 hours of questions for the governor, like, I get that, there is a time part to it, but it's just unacceptable to not answer questions, or like when in the debate, like you and I talked about this. I can't remember if we recorded it or not, but like when Governor Spanberger refused to answer questions about the boys and girls locker room issue, and she just stood there. That's unacceptable. The moderator should have stepped in and said, "You have to answer the question,"
Yeah.
um,
I
or
mean, if
or
you go
the
to a court of law, you go to a court of law and you're a witness, the judge can and will make you answer a question unless, I mean, yeah, you could plead the fifth, but then pleading the fifth isn't, I mean, you do have a Fifth Amendment, but that's an admission. That's really an admission of guilt. I mean, so you're really not doing yourself any favors um, by pleading the fifth. But in unless you plead the fifth, the judge in a court can demand that you and answer the question. And so, yeah, I mean, for a candidate not to answer a question is just acceptable. And Lieutenant Governor Hashmi, she just did not want to. Um, she didn't want her platform to be out there public that public.
no, no, and the Democrats are going to play this game now because their platform isn't palatable to the masses, and so they're going to play the game of. Well, I mean, think about when Biden was running, and even when Biden was president, you never heard from him ever, and they're going to run that playbook now until somebody tries to do so. Like I don't know. I love America. I love the Constitution, and even I mean, I could never be on the other side, but assuming somehow I could, I wouldn't find that acceptable. Um, the Republicans to do the same thing. They should not, or the people in general, I should say, should not find this to be acceptable.
Yeah, instead of finding here's the problem. Well, here was a consensus. Instead of finding Abigail Spanberger's lack of answer unacceptable, they found Lieutenant Governor Sears' demands for her to answer unacceptable, and she was
Yeah, that's
described as a
true.
bully. Okay, I mean, did Lieutenant Governor Sears go over the top? Okay, perhaps. Um, but why are we going to say that she was a bully all the while we're letting Spanberg get away with not answering questions that are on the mind of the people of the Commonwealth? Of the Commonwealth of Virginia want to know, are you going to allow boys and girls bathrooms? That we want to know. You stand there mute like looking at the camera like a deer looking at headlights. That's not acceptable. But
Yeah,
it's what the people allow, and the candidates will do what they can get away with.
absolutely. Yeah, we've allowed it. All of us have allowed this type of. Um, it's like on the last show we did. We were talking about the SEC vote. That wasn't even a public thing. That should have been public. You should live stream everything
Yeah,
and
you know the last minutes that they have published on the SEC website.
no,
And
I didn't check.
I actually said something to Nicholas Prophet, who's the executive director of the SEC, the other day. I said, Nick, I said the last minutes that you guys have on the SEC website are April of 2025. That was the last recorded minutes on your website. So how is this a government by the people and for the people?
No,
Because you guys aren't
that's
even letting people know what's going on in your meetings, and you guys represent the people. But yet we have absolutely no idea what goes on in the meetings because you guys haven't published. And he gave me some song and dance of why they weren't on there. I didn't accept it because I said, Nick, wait a minute, we're over a year out, and you still haven't published the minutes from the previous meetings. And I said, why hasn't the vote already been made public? Well, it'll be made public in the next 30 days. So I'm watching. And in 30 days, if it's not on the website, he's going to get a phone call and say, okay, why isn't this up for public review? What are you guys doing? This is not transparency. This is not the way government is supposed to work. Stop hiding things from the people.
yeah, and
Stop.
people
Okay, let me put it to you this way. Stop thinking that people are so stupid that you can hide things from them.
yeah, and or people aren't paying attention. And that's really what it is they think nobody is paying attention and they can just do what they want. And it's people that listen to our show or that are politically And people are getting more politically minded. Um, my mom called me yesterday and was like, "What do I do about this Social Security thing? Who can I talk to?" Because AARP sent her something, and she was fired up. And I was like, "Yeah, write your representative. Here's what you can do." And yeah, people are getting paying more attention because they're realizing this is affecting our everyday lives. But you can being transparent is the easiest thing in the world because as a follower of Christ, I'm very open about all my sins. I don't glorify them, but it is what it
Right.
is. But I've been
Yeah.
forgiven by Christ. And if there's no transparency, it makes me very nervous. Why? And maybe it's because they're lazy and it's something that I don't find that acceptable, but maybe it's not a nefarious reason, is what I'm trying to say. Um,
Maybe not.
but
Maybe not.
there's no
But that's
reason.
certainly not where our minds go, is it?
No, not at all. No, when I see
Because
the
because
vote,
because so much of the time it has been nefarious.
yeah, exactly. And like the SEC vote that we talked about, like I got the list from somebody else. I didn't get the list of the votes from the RPV.
Right.
I saw the
Yep.
list from someone else. Now it was a real list. This isn't like a weird conspiracy thing, but that should have just been an open vote. And it should have been number one, it should have been uh that particular meeting. I mean, you had to track it down. It wasn't posted on the website. Uh,
Well, what I did is I recorded the meeting, both audio and video. And this past Monday, my secretary and I spent about 2 hours. I made a print copy of the committee list off of the SEC website, and we spent about 2 hours going over both the video and the audio recording, and we marked on the actual SEC represent committee member list how they voted, and I have that. I have that information of how everybody voted.
yeah.
But
So
like you to your point though, it wasn't readily available by them, and it should have been.
no, it should have been. And that makes see when people hear things like that, they're automatically going to go, well, why on earth would Dr. Huffman, who's out there representing biblical beliefs, have to go to those links to get a vote, a simple vote from the party who on paper is supposed to be aligned with us? Um, that is that's the troubling part of it is, you know, again, it's not that hard to be transparent. It really isn't. Um, they could have live streamed it. You can get $100 camera off Amazon, put it on a tripod and connect it to a laptop and you can live
You're
stream it.
set. Yep.
It's not that difficult to do
Well,
these things.
there was 90 people in that room, therefore there were 90 cell phones, and probably 88 of them were smartphones. So, I mean, it's no excuse.
No, no,
I'm
none at
really
all.
so I tell you the truth, Will, I'm really surprised that they did not have a, no recording. That really would have been bad if they had a no recording rule, but they never said anything. So, but that would not have surprised me, but that would have been
Yeah.
really, really bad.
No, there should never be in a public when it comes to politics and it comes to what we're going to do as a state or a community or a town or whatever it is. There should never be a reason not to allow questions like that's. Remember a few years ago, Loudoun County School Board did that. They cut
Mm.
off the recording, the live stream of their thing. I don't remember if they brought it back. So if they brought it back, please don't skewer me on the internet because I don't pay attention that closely to the Loudoun County School
I
Board. But I,
I I can hear the Trojans coming now, Will. They're coming after you.
but they did turn it off. Why? There's no good reason to do that ever. If you're, and that goes to show you too what they think of this platform. Like, why would Spamberger not answer that question?
Yeah.
So she doesn't want
Because the
to.
fact of the matter is, all you gotta do is look at her record when she was in Washington, and she supported those agendas there. And it's like you and I have been saying even before she was elected, why wouldn't we think that she's gonna bring those same policies that she implemented in Washington? Why would we not think she's gonna bring those to the Commonwealth of Virginia? So if she won't answer questions at a debate and she won't answer Nick Minock's questions, Well, okay, fine. We'll just go back and look at your voting record in Washington, and we'll know exactly what you're going to do. And how she voted in Washington is exactly what she's doing. So we shouldn't be surprised. The same governor who vetoed a cannabis retail bill, we talked about this on the program last week. The same governor that vetoed a cannabis retail bill is the same governor that's going to sign a budget with that same bill inside the budget.
Yeah. Yeah,
And
we're lucky.
they're getting in their budget exactly what her veto amendments tried to change. Tried to go from 350 stores to 200. Democrats in the House and Senate said, no way, forget it. They said, we're not going to accept it. She vetoes it. Then Paul Krizik and Senator Aird wants to bring it back into the budget as a line item with 350 stores and 200 licenses. And wow, now the governor's going to sign that. So the same governor that vetoed that is going to sign the budget line item.
Yeah, and this is where we as a group of people, a large group of people, a populace needs to stop accepting politicians are, liars and they're this and that. And so there's nothing we can do about it. And I get it, it's frustrating and I get it that it's a lot of work, but if that's our attitude, then this is what we're going to get. We have to be the ones to step in and make the change. We can't be the ones that just, wipe our hands of the situation and go, well, as politicians for you, they're just going to, well, yes, you're correct. That's what they're going to do, but it doesn't mean we have to accept it. And it's the same thing with the party votes or debates. Like, I don't know, the Republican Party, I don't know what they could have done about the lieutenant governor debate thing, but that's unacceptable. They shouldn't have accepted it.
Yeah,
They
exactly.
could have, what I would have done is still held the debate and put it on TV and live streamed it and said, look, they didn't show up.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And then
Who was it that did a mock debate? Was it John Reed that he did a mock debate with her based on things that she had previously said?
yeah, that's what I would have done.
I think that's what he actually ended up doing, if I remember correctly, which is pretty ingenious, but didn't help.
No, it didn't help him, but I would have had, you know, uh, like I said, there's ways you can do these things
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
and get them on the record. Hey, I was here. I gave you a month or whatever it is, and I walked out on stage and I was there by myself and just spoke. Um, and then at least it's on the record that people didn't show up. I would have done the same thing for multiple debates with Spamberger. I would have said, "Cool, you don't want to show up? Well, I'll go." And I would invite Democrats and Republicans and say, "All right, well, she didn't show up, so I'll just answer your questions for the next 2 hours."
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
That would have been
Yeah.
awesome.
Yeah. Yeah.
People want
Yeah.
transparency. That's why people get upset about a lot of things. Uh, all these backroom door deals and things like that. Well, the only way to counter tons of money coming from out of the state or even in the state in terms of like Dominion Energy and stuff is to stand up and go, this isn't acceptable anymore. And this should be bipartisan stuff, in my opinion. The whole system is gotten weird.
I don't particularly care for and there's really no statute for this, but I've never been a fan. Now, of course, the First Amendment says that we have the right to address our government for redress of grievances, is what the First Amendment states. And so we have the constitutional right as the people to stand before our representatives, whether it be House or whether it be congressional or whether it be Senate. We have the constitutional right to stand before our leadership and say, listen, here's our issue. But the problem, Will, is um, when we come down to Richmond or we go to Washington and we stand before committees and we do debate and we do testify, you get the impression really quick that they're just checking a box. They can't tell you that that you can't do that, or it's like pulling teeth out of a chicken to get into their office to meet with them about an issue. Okay, I'm a constituent of yours. I'm here. You're here because of my vote. You're here, or you're here because of people in the district where I live, and you're not giving me a meeting. Now, I understand if Scott Surville up in Eastern Fairfax wouldn't give me a meeting before he gave you one. I mean, you live, I don't know if you live in his district, but you live in Fairfax. So I understand if he would give you a meeting before he gave me one, even though I represent churches in his district. Personally, me, I'm not a member of his, I don't live in his district. But even getting into the office of people that are in districts where I have constituents, um, it's like pulling teeth. And then you have no time. They give you hardly any time to talk to them about the situation. They rush you out of their office. They give you they give 15 people 5 minutes to speak, to address their leadership on their grievances. 15 people get 5 minutes.
I know.
I remember when we were debating the abortion thing back in 2024. They gave 80 people 15 minutes to speak. Now, I understand that committee meetings can't go on forever,
Yeah.
but I also understand we have a constitution, and I also understand um, that you represent the people, and it's the people that you need to hear from, because the fact of the matter is, these people down here in Richmond, especially on the progressive side, they're not voting with the people. They're voting their own ideology.
Well, I've been reading this book. It's a pretty fascinating book. So the most common form of government in the history of this world is some sort of kingship. Um, Dictators. I mean, there's different names of it, but one ruler essentially is the most common form of government. And then, of course, underneath that, you have, if we look at it in a medieval times uh, analogy, you have nobles and all that good stuff, and then you have us, the normal people or serfs in those days, and that's what we're creating again. So the amazing thing about America is America broke that mold to where there actually isn't a king. The people are actually the king. And this is where the churches have made a huge mistake. We don't count, we are supposed to counsel the king, right? The prophets, if you look in the Old Testament, right, the prophets counseled the kings. Well, who is the king in America now? Um, per the Constitution, it's the people.
Hmm.
And so the church is
Oh,
supposed
it's
to
not
counsel
Trump?
the people. No, I don't think so. If
I've got about 2,000 people, Will, that sit on the side of 29 North in Charlottesville the other week that would say they would think differently.
then just think about if all those old people use their time in a more wise fashion
Yeah,
than
yeah.
standing on the side of the road with their no kings. Again, like we talked about last week, I'm all for your right to protest. And if that's what's got to bug up your behind, then go for it, I guess. But yeah, I,
Where do you come up with this stuff?
I, I don't know. I just, I think about the same thing. Like, but this is where
You
like
sit
the
and think about this stuff. You sit and think this stuff up, don't you?
people do not want an insight into my mind. It is, I'll, I'll never forget one time my wife asked me, she was like, can you just tell me what really is going on in your mind right now? And I was like, you really want to know? And like 10 minutes later, she was like, I understand why
Like,
you keep a lot to yourself now.
oh, but
Um,
maybe that's why you and I get along so well.
yeah, maybe it is. Yeah, but think about like people come together and fix things. Like I remember when Cracker Barrel was gonna change their logo and go woke and all that,
Oh, yeah,
whatever it
yeah.
was. I don't care. You're a restaurant, do what you want. But they fixed it. They didn't go. Like I made this joke last night at Bible study because we were talking about in Ezekiel and the judgment of the Lord was on the whole nation. And the Lord says, I'm going to protect the remnant, but the judgment is on the whole nation. And so it shows that Christians we're not excused from standing, right? And so you look at these various different things, and so think about this. Remember when Bud Light was, they hired that guy who thinks I forget his name, but the Bud Light thing happened,
Yeah.
with
Mhm.
the man who thinks he's a woman thing
Yeah.
happened.
Mm. I remember.
So drinkers got together and made a difference, but Christians can't do that. But the drinkers did.
It's incredible, and it's shamelessly incredible.
Yeah, I mean, good on them. I don't mean this as a slight. I mean I mean it as a slight against Christians. Like,
Yeah. Oh, absolutely. Yeah.
uh,
Absolutely.
Bud Light was
You
like
know,
the
it's
number
just
one beer.
it's just what people will do for something like that, but Christians will not do to stand up for biblical values. Even in the
Yeah,
pulpit will. And
no,
you and I are both experiencing that now. The pulpit is just silent when it comes to these issues. Now we'll get up in the pulpit and we'll rail against certain things. I mean, we'll rail against pastors will get in the pulpit and they'll rail against going to a movie theater. They'll rail against rock music. They'll rail against country music. They'll rail against this book, that book, and the other book. And okay, you have your right to do that. But then you're not going to endorse a pro-life candidate from the pulpit because, well, that's political. We don't want to do that.
yeah,
You're not going to endorse a candidate that believes in the biblical uh, definition of marriage. Well, because that's political, and I do Jesus. I don't do politics. Shameful, shameful.
yeah, and we wonder why there's no transparency because there's no need, right? The other side or whoever's running for office doesn't feel the need to have it. And if we made them feel the need to have it, that hey, we're not going to vote for you because you've been sitting in a basement sending YouTube videos, and that's all it was.
Yep.
Uh,
Why am I going to spend money in candidate if I don't have to?
yeah. It's- So I know you wanted to talk about. You went over to the seventh district's meet the candidate
Yeah,
event in Stafford. I think it was in Stafford, right? Last night.
it was actually it was at the VFW in Fredericksburg last night,
Oh, that's right. Yeah, I got
right there
invited, but
on.
we had Bible study.
Yeah, yeah.
What
So I
did
had
what
to
did so there's
had to go
3
in there by myself.
candidates. Yeah, sorry. We have 3 candidates running for the 7th, against Eugene Vidman's,
Yeah,
that's his
yeah.
seat now, and so the primary is underway. Um, Election day for that, I believe, is August 4th.
Yep. Early
Um,
voting starts today.
yeah, but early voting is begun.
Well, yeah, early voting has begun. So it was not today. It was last week, last Thursday.
Yeah.
Last Thursday.
So what were your impressions, from that event?
Well, I had been in several. Last night was the first night I had met Rick or Phil, but I had been in several other events with Doug Olivet, and there were some good points made. They didn't ask any hard questions. You and I talked about this off air. They did the typical RPV thing, and they didn't ask the hard questions. You know, the questions on data centers and power bills and things that, don't get me wrong, things that are important, things that you have to have an opinion on and you have to have direction on, and things that have to be taken care of. We get that, but you know, when I go to something like that, I want to hear, okay, what is really going to differentiate these three guys? Okay, because here's the reality. They all believe the same thing pretty much about national security. They're Republicans. They all believe the same thing about the border. They're Republicans. They all believe the same thing predominantly about tax breaks for data centers. They're Republicans. That really doesn't set them apart. Last couple of years ago, when I went to the same type of forum, but it was when Delegate Hamilton was running for Nick Freitas' seat, and she was in her primary. I can't remember that guy's name now. Um, I'm sure somebody will email me and say Doofus is his name. But anyway,
Yeah.
um, the um, if you need to email me and tell me, it's call me a doofus and tell me his name, the email address is Pastor Will at thekingdompolitics.org.
Nice.
And so, and so, um, they start asking a bunch of questions to Karen and this guy, and nothing was really differentiating them apart because they're Republicans. But I had slipped in a question about the abortion amendment, about the same sex marriage amendment, about the restoration of rights amendment, and that question got asked. Then you start seeing that there was a great difference between Karen and her opponent. And so last night was kind of the same thing, although they never asked any questions about the amendments. The closest they got was to ask a question about parental rights as far as education is concerned. And they're Republicans. They all believe that parents have this final say so when it comes to the education of their children. Rick and Phil, both of them are pastors. And we have written, VAIB has written, and it'll be on our website, vaib.org, later today or tomorrow, that gives a complete rundown of every candidate in the Commonwealth of Virginia separated by district in the Commonwealth of Virginia for the United States Congress, and who they are. And it's just the primaries, it's just the Republicans, who they are, what their platform is, how they stand on abortion, where they stand on same sex marriage, where they stand on religious liberty. And of course, I've also included that for the 7th. Of course, like I said, Rick and Phil are both pastors. Rick is a small business. He's a contractor. I think he lays concrete or something like that. Phil has done a lot of work at the Pentagon and in Washington with, I think, President Bush, things like that. Doug has also done some work in Washington. The biggest difference between the three candidates is that Doug made absolutely, and in fact, not only just last night, but in every forum where I've heard him speak, he has never made any um, mention of faith, Jesus Christ, Christianity, church, or anything like that. He's being very careful about not making any statements. And if you go on his website, and if you look on the internet, and like I said, as I've listened to him publicly, he has never made a public denunciation of the abortion amendment or the abortion industry, funding abortion, things like that, or um, same-sex marriage. Now, a lot of the people that will not come out and make statements about that is this reason. This is this is the reason they give. Well, that's a state issue. I agree
Yeah.
with you. That is a state issue. But in 2015, the Supreme Court made it a national issue with Obergefell. And I agree with you that same-sex marriage is a state issue, should be a state issue. But abortion isn't a state issue. Abortion is a national issue. So you can't refuse to make a public statement about abortion and then claim, well, it's a state issue. No, it isn't, because the federal government votes all the time. I mean, part of the budget of the federal government is, are we going to give federal aid to Planned Parenthood? So you can't hide behind the curtain of, well, that's a state issue. No, it isn't. That's a federal issue. And so while they try to make that as an excuse why they don't make claims on it, we don't buy it, because it's not true, for one, and we recognize that the statements are made that way because they really don't want to come out and make a statement because they know that it is unpopular. Now, in all fairness, Phil Harding has come out publicly and he is unapologetically pro-life. He is unapologetically pro-traditional family. But the other two, not so much. Now, I can make an assumption that because Rick Smithers is a pastor, that he probably also is pro-life and pro-traditional marriage. But I just haven't been able to find anywhere publicly where he has said that, but I have for Phil. But all three of them are going to have a tough battle against Eugene Vidman. Number one, he's a Democrat in a purple district and in a purple state. Now, there are, correct me if I'm wrong, Will, there are some fairly conservative counties in the 7th District, Green and Orange, and
Yeah.
those are fairly conservative counties. But then we've got portions of Prince William, you've got portions of Fredericksburg, you've got portions of Stafford that are also included in the 7th District, which makes it a little bit more purple. And so that's part of the uphill battle. Second part of the uphill battle is that Eugene Vidman is the incumbent, and the incumbent is automatically difficult to beat when you are the incumbent. And so then you have to have a very, very strong candidate to beat an incumbent. And honestly, uh, I don't know that we've got that. We'll wait and see. I did like a lot of the things that Phil said, but we'll wait and see what happens when he goes if he gets the primary. We'll see what happens when he has to go toe to toe with Eugene Vidman. How he handles that. We'll wait and see.
Yeah. So full disclosure, I've had a couple meetings with Phil, just he and I. Um, so I don't know, like we're not like best friends or anything, but I know him and have had the chance to speak with him, uh, with just he and and I'm a big fan of his platform. I really pray that he does well. I might even if he wants to do the live stream Zoom stuff that they were talking about with faith leaders, I might even be on a couple of those. So just full transparency for everybody, because like we were talking about,
Yeah, I
I
mean, he
don't
was with
know.
when I met him, he was without apology.
Yeah,
I mean, last night was the first time I've got a meeting with him on Monday, but last night was the first time I had personally met him. And within 30 seconds of shaking his hand, he was like, Dr. Huffman, the answer to our problems is Jesus Christ. So
yeah,
he's unapologetically Christian, and I appreciate
yeah,
that
he
about
is.
him.
Yeah, he is unapologetically Christian, and he even listened to me as I explained the three amendments that we were facing, um, in Virginia in detail. And I believe he's the right kind of candidate that Christians need to be pushing, um, and should get behind. I don't know the other two um, candidates. I'm just looking now at Rick Smithers' website. I don't know where he's a pastor at. Um, his website is kind of the same as everybody else's.
Yeah, got a
Um,
picture of him in front of the church, but I don't know where it
yeah,
is either.
yeah. I don't know what church that is. So it's not a good or bad thing. I just don't know what it is. So I don't know. Sometimes when people say pastor, you're like, oh, okay, like how? Um,
Pastor of what?
but yeah, he's looks like he has a construction company as well. Um, but yeah, Phil is the kind of guy we need to get behind, and I don't know how much help I am, but to get behind it, those are the kind of guys we need to be sending to the federal level, because I mean, you and I have talked about the federal level, not on the show, but um, it is rough when you go there. I don't think there's a lot of people with integrity left there. And not saying that's going to happen to Phil. I just mean he's the type of guy we need to send that will keep his integrity because his faith is in Christ. Um, people, what is Congress's approval rating right now? It's not good, and it hasn't been for a long time. Um, it it hasn't been very high. I'm looking it up now. Um, yeah, their approval rating of as of May, uh, their approval rating was 12% at Congress. um,
12%.
Good news, that's up 2% from April, which was 10%.
Right, we're on an uphill swing now.
Oh, if we look on the bright
Mid,
side, we're going the right
mid
direction.
midterm victory is in sight.
Yeah. Um, but yeah, you're right about the questions. When it comes to, we should be asking hard questions. When and you and I have done Christ and culture together. Um, when someone comes and we had Delegate Zaire on here, and we're gonna have Delegate Hamilton on this program. And yes, we do send questions ahead of time because these are the things we're gonna ask, but we don't I don't pull the questions. Um, the, we want to have an honest discussion, and then when we do Christ and culture, or any event, and people get to ask me questions, I never know what the questions are going to be. Uh, it's really a free for all. It even, you might have to stop and think
especially
for a
from
minute.
especially from the abolitionist.
Yeah. Um, the
I'm wondering
yeah,
if it'd be a good idea. And we say that now maybe we should talk about this offline, but I'm wondering if it'd be a good idea if we could have Rick, Phil, and Doug on this show and ask them the hard questions. Send them ahead of time. Do you want to come on the show? Here's what we're going to ask you, and and as representing people that are in your district, we're going to expect answers. Now, I don't think we'll have a problem getting those answers from Phil, and maybe not from Rick. But Doug may not want to answer some of the questions that you and I would ask. So maybe we ought to have the three of them on the show, and you and I will ask them the hard questions.
that's a good idea. I know well, I don't want to speak for him. I'm pretty sure Phil would do it. Um, and but yeah, these softball questions, like, what does that help anyone? And even from the candidate side, um, if you like think about it as a pastor, if a softball question is like, is your hope in Jesus? Well, of course it is. Like that's an easy question. Like, but a much harder question is, the stuff we dive into on this show, or the stuff we dive into at the various things that we go to. Um, and those are what help people. It shows your authenticity. It shows so many different things. It shows when you have to pause and think about it, and go in that direction. So, but yeah, those are the seventh candidates. So maybe we can try to make that happen. That'd be cool.
That would be.
Um, anything else you want to cover, good sir?
Well, just no, that's probably it. We're coming up on right at an hour. We're at
Yeah.
57 minutes. Yeah, just next couple of days, just check out www.vaib.org, and there'll be a tab on the left that says candidate comparison. And there'll also be a map there. It's not going to be interactive, so you can't click on it, but there'll be a map there that will have each district, and it will be the outline of the counties that are in the Commonwealth. And just pick your district, and find out what district you're in. If you don't know, you can go to www.vaib.org and go down to the bottom and say, "Who is my legislator?" And put in your address. It'll tell you who your House delegate is, who your state senator is, and who your congressman is in Washington. So all those resources right there for you. Um, thekingdompolitics.org,
Uh-huh.
where you can go as well and watch this show. Bunch of good articles written on there by Will and me on different issues. And email us. My email is drmichael@thekingdompolitics.org, and then Pastor Will at thekingdompolitics.org. Email us your questions, your concerns,
Yeah.
send all of your critiques to pull the pin from the grenade at thekingdompolitics.org.
Yeah. Check out the
Now, help
website.
us out.
There's tons of stuff there. You can volunteer. And like I said, we're trying to get people together. I said it on the last episode. We're trying to get people together to be able to make some of these things happen that we're talking about. Because we aren't just talking. I mean, we are talking, but we're moving in a direction to make things happen and to get some of these things done. And if there's a lot of us, then when there is a seventh district debate, we can email those people and go, look, we've got whatever it is, couple hundred, couple thousand people that are interested in this, but we want to put some questions in there. Um, these things are not out of the realm of possibility, but we have to want to do them, and we have to want to follow the Lord in all of these things. And the Lord never called us to retreat from society. The Lord called us to stand and be watchmen. And part of being watchmen is watching our politicians and not accepting non-transparency and these muddy waters that we're looking at, whether it's early voting or softball questions or just not even frankly having a debate. Um, that's like we were talking about earlier. We're the counselors, um, and we have to start acting like it. So that's what we're trying to do. We're acting like it, and so get involved on the website, and it'll shoot us an email, and we'll have tons of information on there, and we'll keep you abreast of everything going on and where you can reach out to people and send people an email. Send people, candidates. If you have questions, send them an email. A lot of them will answer. More than you think will answer. Not to be fair, some won't, but more than you think
Yeah. Yeah.
will answer.
Yeah.
Uh,
And then like and share this podcast, this video,
yeah, thanks.
and click that bell and set to receive all notifications so that whenever the Kingdom Politics posts something on Facebook, which is more than just this show, we post other things as well, then you'll be notified when those things hit.
All right. We pray everyone has an awesome week. Find some people to share the gospel with and bring some people to Christ. And it's the best way to, I did a Bible study before we did this, and I talked about idleness. We don't want to be idle. The Bible is very clear. We are not to be idle people. Um, Second Thessalonians has a lot to say about that. So let's be people of action. And everybody have a great rest of your week. And thank you for watching.
God bless.